In Jesus' tale of the prodigal son, a man leaves his father to go out into the world and forgets who he is. When he remembers, he makes the journey home to his father, who, when he sees him a long way off, runs out to him, has compassion on him, and kisses him. A great feast is prepared, and all are invited, but the older son isn't there. The father goes out to meet him, and in inviting him to join him and follow him to the feast, he discovers that his older son is hindered from joining the feast because of his anger, because of his belief that a lifetime of service and obedience has never earned him the same love and honor that his younger brother was given. The father gently reminds his son that everything he has is already his, and all he has to do is recognize it and join him in the feast. How often do we find ourselves in a position like this father? Do we have loved ones who we see making their journeys in this world that don't recognize who they really are or what grace is available to them if only they're willing to make that journey home to the arms of a loving Father? Do our hearts ache for them? Do you know someone who is so close to entering the feast? Think the feast of the bridegroom. But they're hindered because of their belief that no matter how hard they try or what they do, it will never be enough, even though they've already been promised everything. And all they have to do is accept the invitation to take those last few steps and to accept that their brother's journey may look very different from theirs, and that's okay. I'm sure we have often been or are like these sons at times, but more often than not, as we progress on our journey toward becoming a son or daughter of Christ, we find ourselves more like this father, witnessing loved ones in various stages of their journeys and desperately wanting them to join us in that supper. In our zeal for our loved ones to enter that feast, do we make the mistake of trying to force them through the door? In Matthew 11:12, Jesus speaks of his kingdom or his holy nation suffering because of those who try to rule it by force. Now, God doesn't rule by force. He would never force any of us to make the journey or to enter the feast. Not to find a point on it, but even Satan, whom God lovingly created, is allowed to use his agency as he chooses. And God can do this because his plan already covers that. It allows for each and every one of us to use our agency wisely or unwisely and still be saved as long as we can remember and choose to make that journey toward him. How much more then should we have faith when we see people around us making choices we just wouldn't make? Do we trust God enough to allow other people to use their agency? When the father saw his son a long way off, he ran to him and met him where he was in his part of the journey and had compassion on him. Now, compassion, the root words for that are kom and pati, which mean to suffer with. Are we willing to allow people to be wherever they are in their journey and have compassion on them by being there with them and to just simply suffer with them until they're ready to make the rest of that journey? Yes, the father put his robe and ring and shoes on his son, covering him in these symbols of priesthood, power, and covenant blessings. And he could share that with him, and he could invite his other son to follow him and join him. But ultimately, these two boys had to make that choice on their own, and the good father in Jesus' story allowed them to make that choice to take those last few steps to the feast. Brothers and sisters, as we pray for and share our love of the gospel of Jesus Christ with loved ones, let's not make the same mistake that the older brother did. Accept that every journey looks different and that every journey can lead back to Christ, and that the greatest gift we can give him is to accept his children exactly as they are right now, and even more so to meet them where they are on their journey, and to have compassion on them by staying there with them and suffering with them until they're ready to make those first and last crucial steps into the marriage supper of the Lamb.